Don, quick question. Well, good evening, everybody, and what I'm going to do, it's 7 p.m., it's actually a minute or so afterwards, I'm going to start the meeting. What I want to do here is give you the option. We have 4 members, we normally have 5. 4 members would mean that you could only have one person off to the side. You've got to have a 3-person vote in favor of that. I would give you the option to delay this to another night or go on with it the way it is right now.
Yeah, I'd like to go on with it.
Go on with it as it is. Very good. Okay, well, what we've got is we've got a couple of things here to start the meeting with. We always started with a pledge of allegiance, so when we stand up and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you all for joining out. Okay, what we have in attendance is we have Pete Adams filling in tonight for Kathy Bills. We have Larry, who is here in his regular space again. We have myself, who's here. We have Michael O'Connor, and the person that we're missing is Chris Kralik. So what I'm gonna, any other thoughts on that? Okay.
It's all right.
So just before you, by introducing Pete Adams, does that mean you designated him now as a voting member for tonight?
Right.
The chairman does that. It doesn't take a vote. You can do it yourself.
I just designated Pete as a voting member tonight to fill in for one of our absent persons.
Excellent.
Thank you. All right, so what we have tonight is we have Corey, and I may pronounce that wrong,
Feldbauer
of 166 Stafford. I'm going to read real quickly what you're here to do. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to tell us what you want to do. We'll invite any comments for or against it from the public. We may ask you questions as we go along. I'm going to close that portion. We'll take it into ourselves and do a vote. So, what we have here tonight is Corey is in here, and I'll tell you what he's trying to do. Rather than that, he's living at the address at 166 Stafford Street. The applicant seeks to construct Sanford. Excuse me, thank you. All right, seeks to construct a 12 by 16 square foot shed in his backyard. That's approximately 192 feet. This property is zoned R1 or 13.6. Pursuant to code 175-59, all accessory buildings shall have a minimum size of 192 square feet, or a 1% of the gross land area, whichever is left. And also, within that code is notwithstanding the foregoing, in all residential district, the 120 square foot accessory structures shall be allowed regardless of the lot size. What you've done is you've gone above that amount. So why don't you tell us what it is you want to do? Tell us about your property. I've already got the measurements of it, but tell us what it is you want to do.
Sure.
And, by the way, talk about any neighbors who you talk to.
All right, well, first of all, thank you all for coming out tonight. We are looking to build a 12 by 16 shed at 166 Sanford Street. This would be located, I believe, on the east side of our property, right next to the existing garden that we have. We're looking for a shed larger than the allowable size, about 54 square feet above and beyond what is allowable. This is really just to let us store a lot of garden equipment. We do have a zero-turn lawn mower. Our garage is a single-car garage. We have no basement storage, so I think you guys probably hear that all the time. There's limited storage in these homes in the village, so we're looking to try to maximize that in our yard. I do have a neighbor here today, Sue, in support of our decision. So that's really all I have.
Any other comments, anything special about it? It's 12 by 16?
Yeah, 12 by 16, it's a prefabricated shed by Outdoor Accents. They're located out on Route 104. You can see a few examples of their sheds. I believe we're looking at the New England style. Kind of looks like an A-frame. So no crazy heights like a barn style would be a pretty standard structure.
Curiosity on my point, are you gonna dig up a trench and try and put power out there?
No, no power. No. It would just be a permeable stone pad for it.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions from members of the board?
How high is it gonna be?
I don't have exact measurements. I'm assuming roughly 9 feet, if I had to take a guess.
Corey, is it gonna line up with your neighbor's shed as far as, like, if I'm driving down Sherwood Avenue, your neighbor has a shed?
Correct.
Is it
No.
gonna kinda,
We're gonna kind of offset it. So I guess if you were driving down Sherwood, you would see their shed and
Right.
then our shed. We'll kind
like,
of line up.
are the fronts gonna, like, be in parallel?
Oh, yeah, so you won't see you see the back side of it.
Right.
And you're seeing kind of the back side of theirs as well. I don't know if they have any windows on that side.
I was just curious on placement, exact placement.
Yeah, and we do have a small row of arborvitae. I think that would cover a portion of it.
And your property lot size, I show 165 feet in depth and either 84.3 feet across or 83 point something.
83.21 in the front.
Thank you, yes. So which is how did we come to allowing 54 feet?
If I may, the 1%, I believe we've gotten to 138.
Yes, 138 or 137 and plus, and then the other one is 139 and something, yes. I did both, I did the front and
I'm
back.
sorry, the square footage of the lot, would have taken the 1% of that, would have allowed for 138 square foot shed.
Yes,
Correct.
I would agree with that. So that's so 54 foot
That's why you want
would
to-
come
Right.
to
The 16 by 12.
16 by 12, which is 192. Or is that 94?
192.
192.
So that's how I was getting the 192,
192.
but technically is allowed 138, so.
Yeah.
So the difference of 54.
Right. 192 minus 138 equals 54.
Correct.
Very tough to build. Yeah.
So 54 is the allowed, 54 is the variance.
Is the variance amount
That's what
above
you're
and
looking
beyond
for.
the
So
138.
138, 54 goes to 192.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Curiosity,
Yes.
putting a metal roof on it.
I would like to match our home. We are looking to do custom builds. I know there will be a lot of like overstock shed sales there, so
This doesn't have anything to do with it, but I'm a big fan to the metal roofs.
no, me too. Yeah.
Particularly some of the stone coated steel, that can look almost like shingles.
Yeah, yeah, we have an architectural, almost looks like slate in the front of the house.
Okay.
That's a steel roof, so.
Other questions?
I'm all set.
Okay, you have anything else you want to say?
No, that's all.
All
Is
right,
this-
go ahead, wait a second.
Is the size similar to your neighbors?
I believe it would be identical. I believe they have a 12 by
Bigger lot.
16. They have, yeah, their lot is almost double ours, I believe.
Could they run all the way to the corner, or?
Yeah.
They're in the back corner, yes.
You're not, have you thought about going like a 12 by 10?
Just, we have a 54-inch zero turn, and then by the time we get that, the grill, any patio furniture in there, we have an umbrella. It would eat up a lot of space very quickly. And there's a handful of items in our garage that I'd like to relocate so our garage could be usable for a vehicle.
Garage is, it's just a storage.
Right now, it's essentially a shed for us, yes. I believe that's 12 by 20. It's a pretty small single car.
Right.
And you have the last piece of property before the fire department.
Correct, yes.
Anything else, Larry? All set? Pete?
All set?
All right, you're all set? Okay, I'm gonna close that portion. Thank you very much for that. What I want to do right now is give anybody from the general public the opportunity to speak for or against it.
That would be me.
Thank you. Just tell us who you are and tell us what your thoughts are.
My name is Susan Buckman, and we live at 45 Sherwood Avenue, which adjoins their property. They back up to the side of ours. First of all, just a couple quick things. Corey and Amber, Mike and Amy, Heidi and Joe, we're all this tight little group of people, and we all watch out for each other. Incredible neighbors, incredible proud homeowners in the village of Webster. Before Corey and Amber moved in, the home they purchased on Sanford needed a lot of work. And they did it, and a lot of that work was done directly by this young man. They'll be living there long after my husband and I are pushing up daisies. But it's just the kind of neighbors you want to have. They have the cute little dog that plays Frisbee and a young boy going into 3rd grade. So he has his outdoor things, and the dog needs to be able to run and play Frisbee. And it's a great group of neighbors that we all watch out for each other. Second of all, I want to say these houses, I don't know when the ruling went in about what size a shed could be, but these houses were built back in the early 50s, at least the one we're in, I think it was 52. And back in that day, you didn't need as much storage space. A one-car garage was maybe sufficient to hold a little push lawnmower and a grill or whatever in the winter. Before I moved back up to New York State, which was over 30 years ago, 6 years in North Carolina I spent as a real estate broker. And although a shed doesn't add living space for tax value, it's a nice amenity. And it's not like he just wants to throw up a tin one from Kmart or something. He's putting in one that is well built to last and also looks really nice. Heidi and Joe, right next door to him, that also butt up to ours, they recently put in a shed similar to what he's going to do. And you need that space. He's got the lawnmower, he's got the best basil grown anywhere around Webster, I'll tell you, their garden. But they have their lawn equipment and things, and you want to take care of things. And Corey and Amber really take care of things. And there's a lot of pride in that, and Webster should want people that do that. Well, their home has a one-car garage, no basement, hardly any storage to keep things nice and quality things taken care of. Our house has a 4-car garage, a full basement, half of which is totally finished. Lee's gonna be 78 in a month, and I'm gonna be 69, and we still don't have enough storage. But I told my husband, if I don't get one bay of that garage this winter, and his Camaros and Corvettes can go in storage, he's gonna be sleeping in a storage shed this year. But no, I think I don't think it's unreasonable, and like I say, I don't know how long ago the zoning plans were made, but the nicer, more quality, more aesthetically appearant sheds, they're a little bit bigger now. And if you want to put up something nice, you know, it maybe has to be a little bit bigger and to hold their things so that maybe this winter they can put a car in the garage and not have to scrape it off all the time. So I don't know if you have any other questions for me. We do come up against each other. My husband and I have absolutely no issue with them putting up a nice presentable shed. We have a little groundhog or woodchuck that lives in the stump in our backyard. When we had that dead tree taken down, we told them, leave the stump because we got a little friend living under there. Well, he goes between our house and Corey's house and Heidi and Joe's house. And he lives, sometimes he gets under the shed in Heidi and Joe's, but he goes around looking for who's leaving him treats. So it really is a tight group, and it will give the little woodchuck one more place that he can maybe hunker down and wait for some treats.
Yeah.
So that's all I had to say. I just wanted to ask you to please consider approving his variance because these are proud homeowners that take good care of their residents. They're young people. They'll be here a long time, and we're just thrilled to have them as neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the comment. Anybody with any questions
So I
or thoughts?
assume Heidi wants this too?
Heidi and Joe,
Yeah.
I talked to them the other day. Of course they're fine with it. They just put up the same kind of shed.
You're aware that once you put up the shed, you cannot put up another out?
Yes, absolutely. Do you want me to come back up?
No.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm aware.
Anyone else with any general comments from the general public? Okay, what I'm going to do is close this portion for a few minutes. We will continue to open up our discussion and have our discussion on that. We also have to address the seeker issue with this. Seeker is the State Environmental Quality Review, I think, or something like that. And it tells us whether it's type 1 or 2, and what you're really saying is, does this potentially have an impact on the environment, or does it not? And when we don't know, we have our attorney, he just usually tells us what this does.
It's a type 2.
It's a type 2. That means no environmental impact. Thank you. All right, questions from the members of the board, or any thoughts process there? You're all good. Okay, we have a motion on the table that this is a type 2.
I'll make that motion.
Michael makes the motion, I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. That's just a formal process we have to go through. It doesn't really do anything. All right. So what we've got is we've got an agenda on the table, or a point on the floor of approving or disapproving the 54 square foot variance for the shed, because up to 120 is allowed, and then 1% takes us to 138 or so on this house. So that's what gives us 54 feet.
So I'll make a motion for an area variance of 54 square feet.
Approving.
We have a,
I'm assuming he's approving.
he's making the first motion.
Yeah,
For
for
54
approving
feet.
of it, yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
approving of the 50.
So what
Yeah.
we're looking now done is for a second.
I'll second.
Michael seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Good luck with you. Thank you very much.
Yay,
And thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
That's all we need. You've got your variance anytime you want to put it in place or begin to have them come over and set up the spot.
Okay. Corey, I'll be in touch with you tomorrow,
Yeah.
Friday, for the permit.
Sounds good. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, second thing we have on our table is we have the meeting minutes from July. Would like to know if anybody has had a chance to read them. And if they have, will we get a motion to approve them as written, or are there any corrections that you'd like to see done?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written for the July 16th,
Michael's got an approval on the table to approve the meeting, seconded by Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Good deal, we're doing on that one. The last item that I have here is for us. I talked about this last meeting and it didn't go away. I just wanted to make sure that everybody is still in favor of this. I don't know yet how I'm gonna do this. Number one, do we have any meetings coming up in September?
Yes, I would say it looks like we have one that's gonna be tentative, so I plan on a September meeting.
Okay, so we have a meeting coming up in September. And then what we were going to do was to have some definition of the whole driveway issue that has come up on us a few times, defining, and we, by the way, we don't do that. We don't make the rules. The village board can make those rules. All we can do is provide a comment, and, you know, what they would get from us is, we've had multiples, we've had issues around them. Right now, we have this apron statement. What does that mean? We know what we think it means, but does it mean it doesn't go to, we're gonna spend 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes, putting together how our thoughts are, and I'll bring some data in for us. And then all we will do is we will present our report findings, if you will, and ask the board if they have any issues. Do they really want 24-foot driveways for one garage or 36 for two? Because that's what can happen right now.
We're gonna have a workshop after the zoning, or after the zoning meeting in September?
I wouldn't call it a workshop. I was gonna keep the meeting open for anybody who wanted to stay, but yes, I was gonna do it right then. Or the other option is, we could have a computer meeting if you want. We could have everybody call in. All right, I'm getting a head shake from my phone.
Enough.
No Zoom meeting,
No Zoom
okay.
meetings, okay.
So we're trying, all right, so I will try and address that ahead of time. If anybody's got any thoughts on it, let me know what they are, because really what ours is our position is just point out what's come before us and it's what's regularly coming before us. Here's how we are doing this. How do you guys feel about it? And by the way, I've asked Carl to participate in that main part of the meeting.
Well, one of the issues I have is what happened last time is that the gentleman who wanted to put in the driveway said that everyone on that block has it.
I
And-
understand it.
And I took a count, I went up there and counted, of the 6 houses that have a single garage, 3 of them were correctly paid and 3 were not. And one of them was brought to our attention, the guy with the
With the motor.
motorhome. Now, if you count his, that'd be 7. 7 houses. There's only 7 houses on that house, on that block, with 1 car. So my question would be, is that the 3 who were not, had they gotten variances? And so who polices that? Is that
That's
Chris's,
a great
is that Chris's
question.
job to police that? Is it, if they come up and someone says, well, everybody's that way, and we say, oh, okay, everybody's that way, so that leads credence to allowing this to happen again, that's fine. But if it's not that way, then what do we do? Table the meeting until we find out what the real information is for that?
Good question.
I mean, because you're making blind agreements or choices based on something that someone says.
Now, I don't know how many people have been participating in this as long as I have, but here's what I will tell you, is I went over and I took a look at this shed. I have no problem with the shed. But what I maybe have a little problem with is one of the houses in the neighborhood right next door has a very similar looking shed. And guess what? That's never been before us.
But the house next to his house,
That's the one I'm talking about.
by our ruling, because of his lot size,
Might not need it.
he doesn't need it.
Still needs
It qualifies. I looked at
Well, it might, is what's the size of the shed? Is it more than 192?
No, he said, he told us what it was. He says it's the same size as what he's doing.
Believed.
And what I'm saying is that the lot size, he's got a double lot.
Oh,
So
right.
the math on that is that he qualifies. I looked at that already because I was trying to compare it. I don't think the fire department gives a damn what he puts on his property next door to them. They don't care. And the woman here doesn't mind. She lives behind him. So there's three people. I mean, one of the things I look at is that how many people in the community do not want this? Well, it's pretty obvious that everybody wants this. He's got a smaller lot. His neighbor has the same thing. But those are questions that it's hard for me to make a decision on some of these things because I don't know all the information. I don't have all the information to make that decision. And so, my thing is when I don't have all that information, I tend to go on the side of no. Because I don't have the information. That's just my 2 cents worth on that.
I appreciate that. No, don't, that's exactly what we're gonna talk about, and we're gonna have Carl here.
Just so I understand, Larry, so what information are you looking for? Like tonight, you'd have liked to have known of the houses that were near his, do they have sheds? How big were their sheds? That kind of thing?
Yeah, that would be great if I had that, but I was able to find that out myself. I mean, I saw what the gentleman next to me, that's why I asked him, does he know the size of his neighbors? And he said that's the same size as I'm putting it. But I know you can look up the titles of these, you get the structure, how big that lot was. That's a double lot. And I just did the math, that person qualified under 1%. So he didn't have to come here anyways to put that in.
You just needed to get a permit for the shed.
Just needed to get a permit. Now that's another issue, I guess. What my question is that I'm sure that a lot of people do things without going through this process. And the fact that this gentleman went through the process, even to the point of putting in a surveyor's graph here, which made my job easier, gave us a picture of what he was going to be doing, which made my job easier. So I was satisfied with that, even though if I had a neighbor that said, we don't want that there, I would have said, no, I'm sorry. You have a neighbor that says doesn't want it there. But that's not the case. I mean, obviously, he came with guns loaded. He had his covered. He was covered. The gentleman on that street just said, well, everybody has it this way. Well, when they say everybody has it that way, my first blush is to go, wait a minute. How do I know that? How do I know that everybody on that block has that, doesn't have that? And so then I gotta, be like the sleuth and go down the street and, figure out who's done it and who hasn't done it.
And whether that is the case or not.
But see, I don't even know who's
Why did they do it?
responsible for that. Who's responsible?
Well, it's going to be if you were the neighbor and you said, you know what, I don't believe my neighbor got a permit for that driveway. So then you're going to go to Chris and say, Chris, we need to do code enforcement. So he is going to have to do the homework, and then he's going to have to determine whether he needs to give them a ticket or appearance ticket or whatever for the violation. So then they either A, have to come in front of us to rectify and get a variance for the whatever, so they're asking for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, so and Mike, I totally agree with that.
That's
but
how
at what-
good police go.
Yeah, I mean, at what point do we say we give that responsibility to the people and the neighbors, which frankly, I don't know if we want to turn that into into their responsibility to be
Well,
I mean,
Whether it bothers them or not is where you're gonna get the resistance. I mean, most people, if they're not here, they probably don't care.
They were all
But
notified.
frankly, I think, as far as who's supposed to provide you with the information about all the driveways, because he says everybody has it, well, frankly, you board members, it's your,
Right.
you should do your own due diligence, go up and, before the meeting,
So-
go up and down the street, it's not up to him
no, okay.
to give you photographs of
Right.
everybody, or, you know.
So in my position here, can I say, I don't feel comfortable making a decision on that, because I don't have all that information. Can we table this to next month?
That's what,
Well, hold on, Dave, that's a reasonable question.
Well, certainly you can do that.
I can
What
do that.
can
And
we-
they say,
and as long
everybody
as-
may tell me no,
And as long
what
as
can
you
we
get,
do?
because all you need is two other of your fellow
No,
board
I
members
understand.
to
I
agree
understand.
with,
I understand.
you.
Can't
You just
I-
make a motion to table.
Can't I administratively
No.
put something, where does it
What do you
say
mean
I can't?
administratively do what?
As chairman, I can table
No, you
any
can't.
one,
No, you can't.
so what happens to it? Because it doesn't
A
say that I
majority vote of
can't.
the board can table it. You can't unilaterally, you're just one vote.
Yeah,
so if
you
you
can't-
table
you can't
it
table
and then you
something.
tell the
But the
applicant.
board doesn't, the code does not say I can't do that.
We operate by Robert's Rules of Order. And Robert's Rules of Order, if a table, an item requires a motion and a vote by a majority to do that.
So you tell the applicant he needs to do more homework, provide us the information.
So if
So
Larry.
we're gonna
if
table
Larry-
it.
that's
so
fine,
Larry-
I'm good with that.
Yeah, so if Larry wanted to table it and he puts forth a pretty cogent argument as to why it should be tabled, hopefully he'll get two other board members to agree with him, and then, so Larry then will make a motion to table, somebody seconds it, you take a vote, and it gets tabled.
And then the
Does it
applicant
have-
does that required homework.
Does it have rules on time that we can put
No, you
things?
could table it, well, theoretically, you don't wanna hold them up forever, so
Well,
hopefully he'll come back next month.
Understood.
It's
yeah.
under his,
You only
his
meet,
homework.
you only meet once a month. so-
Yeah. So I really appreciate that, Don.
Yeah.
You answered my
if you-
question.
Yeah, so if you feel you don't have enough information and you weren't able to figure it out on your own, feel free to try to
Okay.
put it off. Table it. So you could, and then you could ask Chris or, you know,
For what?
well,
Yeah.
to try to get information like.
That's their job.
They don't have access to
Not necessarily.
Well, we could,
No, I
we
know
could,
everyone-
we could ask for the information from,
No, if they wanted to
Right,
know,
but
if
if
they
we
wanna
wanna
know
know,
on this street, how many permits were issued for sheds or how many
driveways.
driveways were, you know,
How
I
many-
think that. they
How
could-
many variances were?
So-
we-
I think it's reasonable for them to ask village staff to do that for them.
So if I came up with 6 houses
You know,
and said these
and
3
then-
houses
That makes sense.
have, by my recollection,
No, no, no,
gone
they
beyond
can
the
do
rules,
that
have they
themselves.
had
Show
variance?
me the variance.
They can look that up. You guys can look that up, can't you? It's on the computer,
Yeah,
right?
we can take a look at, because we already
Well,
gave
in
you
the
a
past-
worksheet with the history. We
Yeah,
can take a
yes.
look at if there's more that we can
Yes.
provide you, we can definitely look at that.
My point, and you understand that, my point is the person who says something doesn't
No, I
necessarily mean
understand
that
that,
it's
that's
true.
perfectly,
And I
that's
just-
perfectly legitimate, and you can ask Karen to give me a history, of how many driveway variances were granted in the last 10 years for this street? And she can look it up and give you that information at the next meeting.
Because I really don't know if I want to change these rules in here because we're struggling with some of these things. I mean, the apron thing, I get it. I mean, the apron is generally on public property anyways. The apron that they put in.
We're talking about the little thing at the end.
Is that,
So there's two
that's
different
not real?
definitions. I think the apron that the code is referencing as far as being an extra width of, and 38 feet long or whatever it is,
Yeah.
is at the garage side.
That's correct, okay.
There's an apron at the other driveway at the road that's just a flare out.
That's a flare out, okay. So the terminology, the apron's up there, the flare out's down there, got it.
And like I said, the reason that code came about was there was a house down here that had a 24-foot driveway already and wanted to add another 12 feet to it.
So the
to-
one on the corner?
Yeah,
I
so in
remember.
order to limit the access on the road, we told them they had to taper it back to the 24-foot width driveway before it entered the road.
And by the way, what they're doing right now is driving across the
Well,
grass.
they mow it, they
I'm
maintain
telling
it.
you what they're doing,
It's
but
like they
that-
solved the problem.
Right.
You can't prevent that, so.
Thank you, appreciate it.
all right, so I think that'll be well put time. Carl will be here, and Carl is to carry our message back to village trustees if they choose to make any changes. I don't think that it's out of our range to tell them, here's what we're interpreting right now. This is how we interpret it. Tell us if we're wrong, or if you want to do something else, or if you want to rewrite the code to allow for something. because they have to do that, that's not our job. We can't write that code and enforce it.
No, but I thought you had presented to them. I thought the chair presented it to the board.
Oh, we can present it, but there's nothing that says that it has to operate this way until they
Right.
do something.
Right.
Okay, I think that was good time. I think we're still doing this in about 30 minutes. Very efficient, good time, everybody, thank you. If nobody's got any questions, we've got a meeting coming up in September. Okay, thank you. Got a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make a motion to close the
Michael's
meeting.
got a motion to close the meeting.
Make a motion? Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Seconded, thank you very much.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Very good.
No, I